Welcome to HR Digital Angel, all the geek translated into HR speak. I'm your host, Sarah Regal, resident IT geek and instructional designer, here to help you with applying technology, new modalities, and methods into an HR context. Today's episode is blockchain, and we break it down brick by brick to show HR professionals what they need to know about this hot, emerging tech. So what is blockchain? Blockchain is defined as a digital database containing information, such as records of financial transactions, that can be simultaneously used and shared with a large, decentralized, publicly accessible network. Okay, great, but if you're not IT, how do you figure this out? What does it actually mean? Don't worry, your HR Digital Angel is here to translate the geek into HR speak. Let's start with an illustration. Imagine a group of children playing with Legos. Each child has a pile of Legos in a specific color. These children are the computers or the nodes, and the blocks are the pieces of data or hashes. In a traditional setup, you have a single tower of Legos, and one child controls the tower. The other kids bring their Legos to this child, who then adds them to the Lego tower. The other children have to trust that the first child will add their Lego to the tower correctly, and that this child won't add extra Legos in their own color after they leave. In a blockchain, the Lego tower is located in the middle of the circle of children. Each Lego that is added by a child is observed by all the children and remains observable by all the children. Legos are added in a particular order. All the children must also agree that the block belongs there, eliminating the risk of one child controlling the tower and adding their own extra Legos. All right. So what does this have to do with HR? It can be used to ease or automate the employee onboarding process. It could also be applied to the performance and compensation processes. Now I imagine you're thinking at this point something along the lines of, great, but this is for my IT to figure out. In your organization, this might be true. This doesn't mean those in HR can ignore blockchain. I'm looking at you, learning and development. So how do you translate blockchain into a functional and useful training program? Let's dive into what an HR learning and development head or instructional designer needs to know about developing learning programs around blockchain. So how do you translate blockchain into a functional and useful training program? Of course, we start with the golden standards of any properly designed training: learning objectives, operational objectives, and targets. We must also decide if it is mandatory or not, and what language we will produce the content in. Finally, we must take into account how and where the learner will access our content. All these variables, taken collectively, should guide us to the modality. This is basic instructional design, and you're probably very familiar. Designing digitally oriented programs have additional factors and nuances that I seldom see executed properly. Before we get into those details, I'll start with a warning. In my experience, digital awareness programs designed to introduce a vague learning objective along the lines of blockchain exists are doomed to failure. Most corporate staff know blockchain exists. Chances are high that they've Googled it. This kind of nebulous program lacks the critical learner context of why do I care, how does this directly impact my job, and what am I going to do about it? There is a fundamental difference in how the instructional designer should approach this topic with an IT audience who may need to work in the setup, construction, and creation of blockchain technologies as a part of a job evolution, and those outside of the IT context. For these technical staff, it is advisable to design a program that blends introduction to key topics, demonstration of the introduced topic, and a hands-on practice of the topic. It should follow a logical IT build progression and be accompanied by the mentorship of expert staff, as well as regular anchoring and reinforcement in the way of practice of these skills, such as a sandbox, practice server, guided code interface, or other tools to reinforce the learning, particularly if their current job does not yet require the utilization of this technology. In most circumstances, it is best to have a clear time frame when the job will evolve, or a clear position of mobility for the staff in question to ensure engagement in the learning process. When we talk of the acquisition of IT skills outside of purely IT career development paths, these skills must have a clear relevance to the learner's job, or they will fail to engage. For example, you may want your legal staff to understand blockchain. For this group, a productive context might be to frame the topic around the legal implications of blockchain and GDPR, or the usage of blockchain in smart contracts. These blockchain-related topics have direct and material impact on the legal staff and could affect their day-to-day jobs. You may wish them to be able to advise your organization from a legal perspective on the use of smart contracts, or have a solid understanding of the topic as a new innovation that your organization may implement in the near future. In this example, you can see that we have covered the 3 critical relational details to give the topic context for the learner. Why do I care? Because blockchain represents new challenges to legal departments in the context of smart contracts. How does this directly impact my job? Our organization is pursuing blockchain as an evolution in our contract process, and legal teams must understand the legal complexity to advise the organization on smart contract usage. What am I going to do about it? You're going to apply legal principles to the onboarding of new smart contract evolutions as a part of the company's innovation strategy. Naturally, this is just an example. Hopefully, this is an example you can apply as you start to structure these types of digitally oriented programs for your organization. I hope you found it useful. Do you have a topic that you'd like your HR Digital Angel to translate from geek to HR speak? Don't hesitate to reach out, and don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. I'll see you next time.